A man who must be on a mission tonight, Ben Simmons. And the 76ers back in the familiar, friendly, successful confines of South Philadelphia at the center in a big swing game number 5 of this best-of-7 Eastern Conference Semifinals series, all square at 2 games apiece. 76ers have their eyes on reclaiming the lead in this series. Another guy who figures to be a big part of it, that gentleman right there, Tobias Harris. As we welcome you into 7-6 Live Countdown, I am Brian Seltzer, Lauren Rosen. Great to be speaking with you. The 76ers and the Atlanta Hawks are looking to bounce back tonight in a pivotal game number 5 as the Sixers try to reclaim the advantage in this series 3-2 after losing that game in Game 4 on Monday, 103-100.
It hasn't been a bigger game than this probably all season for these guys. It hasn't been louder than it's going to be in all likelihood here at the center tonight. Really looking forward to this one, Celts. The vibes are high. The guys are pumped. It was great to hear from Dwight Howard this morning. More on that in a little bit. But yeah, Celts, you said it. This is a big one, as big as it has been for this team this year.
The rite of passage, of course, on 7-6 Live Countdown. Without further ado, we must bring you the latest on the injury and health report front. Lauren, let us have it.
Well, if you've been following along this series, no surprises here. Danny Green remains out with that calf strain. Joel Embiid remains a game-time decision or questionable due to that right knee. It'll be interesting to see Danny Green on the bench. Really good to hear from Doc Rivers prior to our stream that he is in good spirits. He is going to be among the coaching staff, shall we say, tonight. Doc says he looks forward to having Danny as a voice that's actually been out on the court with those guys all season long. Said that Danny is going to provide a valuable perspective that his staff can't provide based on where they've been all season long. Going to be good to see Danny back with the group tonight after he left Atlanta early to start his rehab.
We'd love to see Danny Green on the court in a uniform for the 76ers. Absolutely no question about it. But we know how strong his voice has been throughout this season, and that will not change whether or not he's in or he's out. I'm looking forward to tonight, Lauren, because it's a basketball game. The 76ers playing. 2 things that I like and look forward to. But also, I thought Monday's game was the type of loss for the Sixers where it's got the Paul factor. It doesn't entirely go away until you, hopefully, if you're the Sixers, can flush it out of your system. I thought Doc Rivers summed it up really well after the game on Monday. The 76ers had a golden opportunity. They let it slip away. And tonight, I do feel like if they tighten some things up and hopefully execute better, buckle down defensively, they should be in a good spot.
Yeah, this one stings. It wasn't the happiest group of Sixers after Game 4 when a 3-1 lead seemed very much within their grasp. Took a 13-point lead into halftime, but weren't able to hold it down the stretch as Atlanta made their comeback. And yeah, like we were talking about, it wasn't a group that was pleased with the way that it ended. They've been itching to get back out on the court and make things right. That first chance comes in a little over an hour.
You're right, Lauren. The Sixers got off to a really strong start after both them and the Atlanta Hawks had a rugged and ragged beginning of the game where each team missed a lot of shots. The Sixers seized control. They went up by 15 at one point, 53-38 in the second quarter. The Hawks had to call a timeout. And at that point, it just felt like Atlanta's will might have been broken. But to the Hawks' credit, listen, they had a great third quarter. They got some really big energy plays, put back dunks from John Collins. Talking about dunks, a great one there by the Sixers. And Atlanta ultimately had enough to take advantage of some missed execution and opportunities by the 76ers. And a Joel Embiid who had to fight through a difficult second half when he went 0 for 12 from the field. But I still think, Lauren, when you look at the 2 wins for Atlanta compared to the 2 wins for the Sixers won both their games, obviously, by 16 points. Atlanta winning its 2 games by a total of 7 points. And I think that when you examine it, both those wins, not to take anything away from the Hawks, somewhat of a result of the Sixers not being at their sharpest or on the top of their game.
Yeah, no doubt about that, Celts. If you look at the point differential. If you look at quarters played, halves played even, the Sixers have certainly won more, but games played, it is all tied up at 2-2. I completely agree with you. Sixers let up a couple times and unfortunately cost them 2 of the 4 games they've had the opportunity to play, but it's a group that understands that if they play the way that they're supposed to, they shouldn't have huge problems. That's what we've seen all series long. Tonight, back on their home court where they do love to play, love a best of 3 where 2 of them will certainly be at the center. But yeah, like you said, just moments where the Sixers let up, and the Hawks, credit to them, were ready to step in.
Absolutely. I think one thing that I've really liked as far as a phrase and refrain that Doc Rivers has revisited throughout the season, he said it on various occasions. He also said it again tonight, that if the Sixers are the best version of themselves, he really loves their chances. And I would agree. I think the Sixers' talent, depth wins out. And if they execute and are the best version of themselves, then I think they have a really good shot to get back on stable footing, head down to Atlanta on Friday with an opportunity to potentially close this thing out and move on.
Well, it's clear that they have been the better team in this series, but like we keep saying, credit to the Hawks for exploiting those opportunities when the Sixers aren't playing like the better team in this series. You're seeing some of that second half where the Sixers did run into their struggles in game 4. Now, Joel Embiid, not exactly what we're used to seeing from him in this second half, but good to see shots like that fall for a guy like Furkan Korkmaz, who stayed ready and, of course, got the start in game 4. Danny Green's first game out. No update as of yet, Seltz, unless you've heard one that I haven't heard on tonight's starting lineup.
I've got nothing. We know that the injury updates on the Lauren Rosen subby, one of several, but perhaps the most important and significant.
I try. For those of you asking about starters in the comments, I see you. I will update you if we are still on the stream when we find out. But as of now, no update on who will be filling in for Danny Green in game 5.
We referenced that refrain from Doc Rivers about the 76ers needing to be at the 100% version of themselves. That was something that we talked about yesterday following a film session in Camden.
Yeah, I mean, give them credit. They still, March is funny, they shot, 36%. So it's not like our defense was bad, but our defense was not good either. Deflections, I think one of our goals is around 40 deflections we had 18. We had 0 in the fourth quarter. So there was a lot of signs in that game last night to prove to us that we have to be a better version of ourselves.
All in all, the second half was a struggle for the 76ers. They only made 12 baskets and mustered up 38 points. And that's something, Lauren, where if there's one thing the Sixers have not had trouble doing in the postseason so far between the first and second rounds, it's scoring the basketball. They've been arguably the most potent and best offensive team in the league so far in the playoffs, and that went away in the second half. And also, not surprisingly, Joel Embiid and the fact that he was held without a bucket, they go hand in hand.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a funky one for sure. If I told you that the Hawks shot 36.6% from the field and 30% from 3, you'd think that the Sixers probably won that game. But some funky stuff going on the offensive end for the Sixers in the second half. The defense was largely there throughout, and that's somewhere that they have focused on all season long and remains such a potent threat.
Last time the 76ers were at the center, some were referring to it as the Shake Milton game, part 2. There he is with his development coach, Tyler Lashbrook. Vibe check, Lauren Rosen, looks pretty good.
Pretty strong indeed. A lot of smiles on the bench today. Shake, of course, always helpful for those positive vibes. Good to see the guys smiling, embracing the moment, embracing the opportunity to have a big moment on their home court where they remain one of the best, if not the best in the league. I'm curious to see if he's going to make one of these and if we're going to be able to tell
I know.
based on his expression.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, here he Oh,
Hey.
So close. That was dramatic. I was really curious to see where the ball landed on that zoom out. Excellent job.
Love these angles
Ryan
we're bringing
Coletti
now.
and
Yep.
his crew. Yeah. Shake Milton with all 8 of his points in the fourth quarter of Monday's Game 4 loss. Some might say that he had an opportunity with time winding down in the final possession that the 76ers had to put up what could have been a game-tying 3. And I just think for the Sixers, get that game out of their system, get back on track. Doc Rivers said before tonight's game a few moments ago that the way he handled it within the locker room with the team was coming off a loss like that, you show the guys, you present it on film, and hopefully that visual tool will serve as a teaching point.
No doubt. And a serious film session yesterday for the group. They were able to gather in Camden and look over what went wrong. Doc said he spoke to each guy sort of individually and pointed out what they needed to change in this game 5, where I know I've already said it on this stream, a game 5 in a place where they are comfortable and confident. And Danny Green back on the bench, I really do think that that change is going to make an impact. You would have loved to have his sort of calming force out there in game 4 to just talk to the guys in the huddle. He's been so vocal on and off the court all season long, so it'll be nice to have that voice back in the huddle tonight.
Something else that Doc Rivers talked about, a piece of insight that he shared with the media the last couple days, is one of his takeaways from game 4 on Monday was that he just felt the Sixers didn't move the ball enough, particularly in the second half. Didn't like the team's pace. They had 16 assists in the first half, only 7 in the second half. And I think that when you go back to the quote that I'm sure everyone heard after the game on Monday about the Sixers settling for hero ball in the second half, that goes back to a lack of ball movement. And that was something on the top of Doc Rivers' mind, Lauren, as well.
No doubt about it. Ben Simmons, of course, a quieter second half as well. And usually when Ben is playing at his best, the team is winning and they're scoring at a really high clip. The assist numbers rise. So look for him to have another sort of bounce back performance. We've already seen him do it in these playoffs. There's certainly a lot of areas where the team is going to be looking to improve tonight. And by all accounts, it seems like they know exactly where they need to.
Tobias Harris with some thoughts of his own on the ball movement for the Sixers, or lack thereof, in the second half.
Well, one, we didn't make many shots. We didn't make shots in the second half, really. We did have some of those looks, so that heightens the lack of ball movement there. Because in the beginning, we did have some good early looks that usually fall for us. They happen not to, so that hurt us. So, and then we just didn't really execute offensively how we were in the first half with the movement, bringing the ball side to side, and really making them work out there defensively. So, yeah.
Tobias Harris with some perspective post-game after Monday's 3-point loss against the Atlanta Hawks at State Farm Arena, where Atlanta's now won 14 of its last 15 games. But, Lauren, it is great to see you back inside the center, where we know the 76ers and the fans, of course, always bring it. And when you frame this, if you were to frame this, like I think we are, as now a 3-game series, 2 games at the center, you would have to think that works in the Sixers' favor.
There's no doubt about that, and this is exactly what they were pursuing throughout the regular season. We heard Doc Rivers talk about it over and over again. They wanted to win the East, and the first step of winning the East, at least in terms of winning it in the easiest way possible, was getting that 1 seed. It could really come in handy, like you said, in a best-of-3 situation with 2 of them on their home court. You see it down there, 33-8 overall at home, 4-1 in these playoffs in this building, and the one a close one, of course. So it'll be interesting to see how the guys capitalize on playing somewhere where they are certainly comfortable and where the energy will be in their favor, as opposed to how it's been these last 2 games.
One of the key nemesis. Is that a word? Nemesis?
Nemesis.
Okay, good. We'll go with that.
Nemesis.
For the 76ers in this series is one of the sharpshooters from the Atlanta Hawks, Bogdan Bogdanovic. Started his career with the Sacramento Kings. Certainly say he's in a far more favorable situation now than he was back then. Here's the thing, Lauren. He only shot 4 for 13 from 3 in the game on Monday. And I think the flip side is like, he had an off night shooting from outside the arc. It's tough to know what you're going to get in terms of perimeter shooting from Trae Young because you can hit from anywhere. It's just how often he does hit. But one thing the Hawks did do is that they got their 3-point shots up. They took 13 more threes than the 76ers. And even though Atlanta only shot for 30%, they made 1 more triple than the Sixers. They had 12. The Sixers had 11. And wouldn't you know, what was the final margin in the game?
And that's something that Doc Rivers pointed out yesterday. The Hawks did shoot technically at a lower clip, but they just shot a lot more. 101 shots overall to the Sixers 85. And then, like you mentioned, 43 to the Sixers 27. So when you're getting more opportunities, you're going to get more points, and a guy like Bogdan is going to make sure he gets his 22 points and 5 rebounds, despite that difficulty shooting from the outside in Game 4.
We saw Ben Simmons walking into the building. We'll also hear from Ben Simmons and his thoughts on returning to Broad and Pattison for tonight's Game 5 battle.
I mean, obviously going home, we're playing in front of your own fans. So they're going to give us that boost that we need probably. But, we got to handle business game by game. So it's going to be a couple of nights. When do we play? When's the next game? Wednesday. So, Wednesday night we got to be locked in and prepared. Get some rest tomorrow and then watch some film.
Lauren Rosen with the assist for the assist man. Well done, well done.
I try to make myself useful every once in a while. It's not frequent, but I do my best.
This is an adjustment, I think, for everyone. We were on this cadence as we take a look at Seth Curry on the floor. We were on this cadence of game 2 days. Now it's every other day. But this guy, Lauren, has had a great series. He's had a great postseason, but in particular, he caught fire at the end of the Washington series with his 30-point game in Game 5. And since then, he's been really solid. Tough break for him, not able to get the shot to go down. That would have tied it on the double clutch at the end of regulation on Monday. But what a series for Seth Curry.
Well, good to see him at least get that look, too, and shoot it confidently. I know a lot of folks, including his teammates, feel confident when the ball is in his hands in those types of situations. So it's been great to see him embrace the role that he's had and become a really solid option for these Sixers all postseason long, especially in the absence of Danny Green. A guy like Seth Curry becomes super important in those minutes with the starters, and he's been making the most of each one of them.
Before we get, Lauren, to your interview with Dwight Howard for tonight's Inside Access segment, we've not yet had a chance to react to some honors for the 76ers. Second team All-NBA for the third time for Joel Embiid in his career. We know that at the end of last season, he was very, I think, rightfully miffed that he did not get selected for All-NBA, and that was a source of motivation for this season. We know what we think of Joel. MVP, shoulda, yeah, but he ends up second All-NBA, which is interesting in and of itself. And then Embiid, along with Matisse Thybulle, second All-Defensive. Ben Simmons, unanimous first-team All-Defensive, which is, again, just a tremendous accomplishment.
Yeah, Ben, of course, second in the Defensive Player of the Year rankings. He and Rudy Gobert, the only two unanimous selections to that first all-defensive team. So props, of course, to Ben for the work that he's been able to put in. Those awards traditionally go to big men, and he made a really excellent case for Defensive Player of the Year this season. It's an award that I believe is in his future. It's an award that I believe is in Joel Embiid's future and Matisse Thybulle's future. Really cool to see all three of them slide into just 10 spots for those all-defensive team honors. Matisse, the first to do it in as few minutes as he played, 20 minutes a game. Really impressive in just his second year. So cool to see these guys get rewarded after a period of time where they were coming in second pretty frequently or just missing out. And that's actually something that Dwight Howard brought up when I spoke to him this morning.
Hey, Dwight, with tonight being the biggest game that you've played as a Sixer, the biggest game that a lot of these guys have played as Sixers, what's your message been to the rest of the team as you guys prepare for such a big opportunity?
Well, I think tonight, the message should be we have to finish. We have to come out. We got to dominate from the first quarter and finish the game. We can't play around with this team. We can't give them any life, any hope. And I feel like guys should be pretty upset, Joel, Ben, Tobias, I feel like a lot of things that have happened this year as far as All-Star, MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, first team, second team, I feel like they should be offended with, they're not, Ben should be Defensive Player of the Year. I feel like Joel should be MVP, and I feel Tobias should have been an All-Star. In games like tonight, I would be pissed off and let everybody know, hey, I wasn't on first team, well, I'm going to be first team tonight. I wasn't Defensive Player of the Year, I'm going to be Defensive Player of the Year tonight for the rest of the series. So I just feel like we got to come out with that attitude tonight, like, hey, don't forget about the 76ers. We war ready.
And because you mentioned awards, we haven't really had a chance to talk about all defense just because there's some other stuff going on. But Ben, Joel, and Matisse all made all defensive teams this year. How excited are you for them? And what does that say about the defensive potential of this team?
I think that's amazing. I am so happy for Matisse, for Ben, and for Joe. You know, being on the first, second, or any defensive team is great. You know, but I hope they're not satisfied. That is the regular season, and now we need that defensive mentality to raise, you know, because right now it's about winning the trophy. And I'm really happy for those guys. It shows the hard work and effort and intensity that they've played with all season long, and they've been awarded, you know, with this great gift. But the job isn't complete. The job isn't done yet, and we got to lock in.
And last but not least, as the series shifts back to Philadelphia, it's now a best of 3 with 2 of them in Philly. How excited are you to play in front of your home fans tonight?
I love the intensity. You know, playoff intensity is amazing to me. You know, I just, you know, want, you know, everyone to understand, like, hey, this is it. This is how it's, every game matters. Every possession matters. Every second, every moment counts. You know, it's, you know, you can't take any possessions off. And this is a real important game tonight, and we have to come out ready to be locked and loaded and play against a good Hawks team. I'm looking forward to being back home with the best fans in the world. I know they're going to be loud and proud and ready to sing Benjanese, but we got to get this game tonight.
Appreciate it as always, Dwight. Thanks.
The bond that Dwight has developed with the Sixers fans so quickly and so passionately has been so much fun to watch all season long. He, like I, like his teammates, so excited to be back in this building for 2 out of the next 3 if necessary. And good to hear that he and his teammates have their heads screwed on pretty tightly for this one.
Someday we got to get the story behind the song. Benjanese. Got to do it.
I believe
might be an off-season
it's
project.
I believe it's a Sam Cassell mantra that has become a Dwight Howard song that has now become a theme song, maybe even a rallying cry for this group. But Dwight, 4 for 5 from the line in Game 4.
Dwight Howard, also a force on the glass. I don't want to spoil too much, but it is time for us to segue to our keys to tonight's game. Yes, indeed.
And while we
Game
segue,
5,
I'll
game.
say that I'll say that Dwight Howard's 4 for 5 was Game 3, rather. My bad. As we transition to our keys.
Keep it rolling, Lauren. What do we got from you tonight for keys to the game?
Well, my key will reference Game 4 directly. We've talked about opportunities. The Sixers, of course, fewer shots put up from long range, from short range in the paint. It's a big opportunity now for the Sixers to even that type of thing up, but also to continue to limit the Hawks. They did a good job of limiting their accuracy, but not as good of a job limiting their shots. I said limit their opportunities. That was the difference maker, according to Doc Rivers. Who am I to compete with what he has to say? Limit the Hawks' opportunities. Take care of your own opportunities. Protect that basketball. And the Sixers should be in good shape at home tonight.
We're just going to jump right into this. Key for me, how do you protect and take care of your own opportunities? You rebound the basketball. I know the 76ers out-rebounded the Hawks in Game 4. They did not, however, out-rebound them on the offensive glass. 12-8, Hawks. Edge, John Collins, crushing several times. Hawks outscored the Sixers 21-9 on second chance points. Take that away. Can't have it. Be the best on the boards, and I think the 76ers will have one of their better shots of winning tonight's game, like we said at the top, bringing it back to what Doc Rivers talked about. Be the best version of yourself. I think that's a great mantra that anyone should try to apply to their everyday life, but the Sixers are their best selves. Again, I think they are in a pretty good spot tonight back at home.
Good mantra indeed. I learned something new from Doc Rivers every day. And I like when our keys complement each other. I think if you limit the offensive boards, you limit the opportunities. It's almost as though we've been watching the same series and the same games all week long.
Doing about 90 shows. We got to be coming up on show number 100 soon, I think. We might have to look into that. The man for the Atlanta Hawks is none other than Trae Young. Super effective, despite a poor shooting percentage in game number 4. 18 dimes, tied for the second highest postseason total in Atlanta Hawks history. The leader in that category is none other than Glenn Doc Rivers, who had 21 dimes in a postseason game for Atlanta once.
And the responsibility remains on the shoulders of Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle in all likelihood to continue slowing Trae down. In the 2 victories that the Sixers had, they really did do a good job of slowing him down. You can't stop him. You can slow him down. The Sixers have a couple weapons that can do just that.
On our way out the door, a reminder, tomorrow, Fanatic About the Playoffs, a new episode drops. We will break down Game 5 and look ahead to Game number 6. We also, Lauren, must highlight this on the beat. Nat Murphy, among the best, those 3 Sixers, all-league defensive team selections. So check that out on any of our social media channels or digital platforms, the website or the 76ers app. And Lauren, we must before we do, because sometimes we just, have to do things and say it because it is true. Huge shout out to our friends at DraftKings Sportsbook. They have been awesome all postseason long, making a lot of the content that hopefully you all have been consuming out there possible, throwing their support behind it and letting us do that much more in the playoffs across the board, whether it's content, whether it's in-arena activations, everything. So DraftKings Sportsbook, thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, DraftKings Sportsbook, for making all of this possible. We love bringing our content to our Sixers fans, and we love those who make it possible.
Thank you also to Ryan Coletti and Trevor Gaffney, you, Lauren Rosen, you out there. Enjoyed tonight's game. Hopefully we're talking about a closeout proposition for the 76ers on Friday night back down in the A. Talk to you then. Enjoy the game.